This is an interesting article. Federally funded researchers discover two new methods of distinguishing hemp and marijuana to assist crime labs. Federally funded researchers have identified new methods of distinguishing between marijuana and hemp by detecting the exact amount of THC in flower and edibles. Seems like that's what they should be doing from the get-go. This is going to be interesting. The National Institute of Justice, which is part of the Justice Department, is promoting the results of two research projects it funded focused on cannabis lab testing, which it's now sharing with select law enforcement agencies. Why not share it with all of them? Why only a few? The aim of the initiatives was to streamline the testing process to help resolve crime lab backlogs that have increased since hemp containing up to 0.3% THC was federally legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill, complicating cannabis-related cases. Current testing methods aren't able to measure the exact amount of THC present in a sample. Let me say that again. For all those who are afraid of getting arrested or whatever you're afraid of, current testing methods are not able to measure the exact amount of THC present in a sample. That's why they always confiscate your cannabis and a lot of the times don't charge you for anything because they don't know what it is and they can't prove what it is. Yeah, that's real. But the researchers they funded have now discovered that they can isolate the THC content as well as other cannabinoids using two different types of mass spectrometry, gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and direct analysis in real-time high-resolution mass spectrometry. The GCMS method was developed by a team at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. They were able to extract THC from a sample and apply the test to find the exact cannabinoid content. The Department of Justice first announced in 2020 that it would be granting NIST $350,000 in funding for the research. I keep talking about this, but this is why a lot of states are legalizing medical cannabis, because then they are able to get federal money for research grants. Whether or not they already know or don't know the information is irrelevant, but they get money in the form of grant to do these testing and the science to help move it forward. The DART HRMS tactic, meanwhile, could help to address another cannabis testing complication that's emerged in forensic labs. It allowed researchers to determine the amount of THC present in baked goods, candies, beverages, and plant materials with minimal pre-treatment steps. Now, that's an interesting and important development because the testing methods you use for flour versus edibles versus drinks versus isolate versus oil, it's all different. And you have to formulate those testing methodologies on your own. It takes time and it takes money in order to do that. That's what I learned when I was working in the lab, that every time you brought in a product, that was a new test that you had to develop for that specific, testing a chocolate's not going to be the same as testing a gummy because they have different substances and different makeups and different chemicals. Rabbi Musa, I think that's how you say it, the lead research with the DART HRMS team, anticipates that the increased speed of using DART HRMS to detect THC in cannabis samples could reduce sample testing backlogs and chemical reagent costs and streamline sample analysis protocols. Duh. You mean it would make it accurate and actually be able to accurately test things? That would be great. NIST's GCMS method has already led to the creation of new standard operating procedures for labs, and the results have been incorporated into training practices for the Montgomery County Police Department and Maryland State Police. Now, why only those two? Why not other places? Like California, where there's actually a big industry that actually needs to know the difference between the hemp and the cannabis plants. But it seems interesting, Montgomery, Alabama, and Maryland, a newly legal state, are the first ones that get this new testing. It's interesting. I'd like to know why they're the ones that got it and why no one else. U.S. Customs and Border Protection also put out a solicitation in 2022 seeking portable marijuana analyzers to quickly identify cannabinoid profiles and help distinguish between marijuana and hemp. That's actually what one of my papers in college was over, about why cannabis isn't legalized. I made the argument that it would be legalized already if we had a breathalyzer test accurate, that every cop had on them where they could go, boop, oh, you're driving over the limit. You now go to jail or whatever they do. But instead, there's no way to test. And if you do test somebody when they're pulled over, it's still in their blood from yesterday or 2 days ago or maybe 3 weeks ago. Who knows? So it's very inaccurate. The DEA separately announced in 2019 that it was seeking a device to provide specificity to distinguish between hemp and marijuana since the former crop was legalized. Again, acknowledging that they can't accurately test the difference. So when they seize all these 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of marijuana on the highway, all they do is confiscate it and burn it. Or maybe at the worst, they sell it on the black market. I don't know. We don't know what they do with it because it's not tracked. The complications result from hemp legalization become especially apparent in Texas, where marijuana possession arrests fell almost 30% from 2018 to 19 following the state-level legalization of the non-intoxicating cannabis crop of hemp. Prosecutors in the state dismissed hundreds of low-level cannabis cases since hemp was legalized, and officials announcing in 2020 that labs wouldn't be performing testing in misdemeanor cases, with the Department of Public Safety saying it will not have the capacity to accept those. And it's not financially beneficial to anybody to spend the money you're spending on testing, and the process to convict somebody for a misdemeanor is not financially worth it. So at least they're making that right decision. Meanwhile, hemp industry stakeholders and agriculture officials across the U.S. are urging Congress to triple the THC limit for the crop to 1% by dry weight. A Justice Department researcher recently questioned the rationale for the current 0.3% THC limit, which she said seemed to be based arbitrarily on a decades-old anecdote, which is taking the words right out of my mouth, where you see a law passed and it's like, 0.3% is hemp. Who said that? Who determined that? Show me the science that determined 0.3, it makes no sense. So there we go. Federally funded researchers have discovered 2 new methods of distinguishing between hemp and cannabis. But as of this moment, field police do not have the method to test on site accurately. Do with that information what you will. This is not legal, financial, or criminal justice advice or anything like that. Just reading an article. So until next time, stay blessed, and don't forget to tip your bud tenders.